The Witch Next Door, unveiling the arcane truth about a girl I dated a decade ago. Where do I begin? So, about 10 years back, my life intertwined with more than just the mundane. I had these experiences with a woman that I had dated. This was some very long time ago. And at some point, I came to the starting conclusion that she was a witch. And while it might sound outlandish, after a careful examination of her actions and beliefs, I present compelling arguments to support my assertion that she indeed practices witchcraft. First off, we'll start off with her enigmatic hand gestures. One of the first indications of her witchcraft that I became apparent of during our time together was that when we would sleep, I would notice that sometimes she would, in her sleep, make these strange hand gestures. And I thought it was extremely unusual because these were very complex, intricate gestures, not just something that would randomly happen. And so I think I woke her up and she became very angry about that. And I told her, I said, I think you have a problem. You're sleepwalking or you're sleep gesturing or whatever you want to call it. And she just said, whatever I do, never disturb her sleep again. And so this is kind of very interesting because she's not concerned about the fact she's making these gestures. She's only upset that I woke her up. And so the overall impression I get from this is, okay, dummy, I'm not going to tell you what I'm actually doing. I'm doing some witchcraft here, and you interrupted me, and I'm very angry. And I'm never going to share the truth with you. I'm just going to assume you're stupid. I'm going to drop the subject, never talk about it again, and you're just going to take it, and you're just going to like it. So I guess the second thing would be that at some point in our relationship, she sent me these photographs of when she went to a spirituality conference. And so what's kind of interesting about the conference is that there's a set of photos where looks like maybe she'd been baptized and she had this white powder on her. And that also set up another red flag. My father, when I was a young child, warned me about that kind of sign. He said, son, whatever you do, don't let anyone ever baptize you and put white powder on you. And I was like, wait, what? And he just told me, you know, don't let it happen. And my father was an atheist. He didn't even believe in God, but he certainly believed in witchcraft. And he warned me. And seeing that sign, I was like, well, it's pretty direct. This is exactly what he warned me about. Another thing that kind of set me off about her was that, she had these ideas about vendettas, right? You get into some kind of argument with someone, maybe they become your enemy, and I talked about, well, at what point do we ever forgive? At what point do we just set aside differences and move on? And she had the exact opposite approach. She was like, no, you never move on. That person's your enemy, and you attack them to the end of time. You never stop fighting them, ever, and you never forgive them. And I was like, that's really strange. And if you're ever watching the African YouTubers on YouTube, that's one of the first things they tell you about witches. That witches are very malicious and they are power trippers, and they don't ever really believe in backing down. They just believe that they find other ways to try certain rituals and spells over and over and over again until they succeed and kick your ass. So even if they have to get more people involved, they'll do it. Even if they pay other people who are stronger, they'll do it. They're just unrelenting. And so this also became yet another sign that I was dealing with a witch. Um, I guess the other thing is that she goes to these spirituality conferences. She doesn't invite me along, and she kind of is very secretive about it. And so, and then of course I realized that she also went with her ex-boyfriend. So when you think about all of that, you realize that at that point, um, I probably became a target, and she's teaming up with her ex-boyfriend, and I'm now going to be the object of her wrath. What I did to piss her off, I have no clue. I mean, we got into arguments about quite a few things, and so for whatever reason, she had a vendetta. She had a vendetta, or maybe she thought I was a simp. Maybe she thought I was an idiot. Whatever it was, she thought that I was no longer worthy of her time, and that I was disposable, and that in fact, probably I could even maybe make for a tasty snack, right? Because she seemed to have this interest in my crown chakra, right, which is at the top of your head. she took me to this place to get a reading on that. And so as she read my auras, her eyes lit up, like she hit the jackpot. It's almost like you're drilling for oil, and then all of a sudden you strike that oil, and so now you're thinking, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. And so when you think about that, I believe it was intentional. I don't think it was a random thing that she just decided, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and take my boyfriend and have him checked out for his chakras and his auras. I think it was targeted, that she already knew when she got involved with me that I had this thing about me, and that as a witch, she sees that as something that is like jackpot, let me see how I can make use of this. How can I snack on this rare energy, right? And they call that being an energy vampire. And there are other things you can do with that as well. You can use it to really have good fortune, good luck, and you can steal people's luck and their destiny from them, and make your life better in a way, right? Particularly if you tether yourself to them, maybe by using sex magic or something like that, right? So, all in all, these different signs that I see kind of are convincing me more and more that yes, that this person I dated a decade ago was indeed a witch. I didn't know it at the time. It didn't come to me right away, but eventually, with time, I started to see through what was going on because of all the odd clues that were left that made me come to realize that there was more going on than meets the eye, that there were mystical elements that were going on than meets the eye. Even the fact that I began to dream about her years after we broke apart and never were to see each other again, it's kind of unusual, right? Because I think I even had a conversation with her once, telling her that, oh yeah, I don't usually dream about ex-girlfriends, and she kind of smirked a little bit, kind of like a, oh well, I guess you never had one to rock your world enough to really, be have a lasting impression on you or whatever. And so, kind of, it's like when you see that, you almost seem like it's almost like a challenge to her, like okay, And so, surprise, surprise, here I am, years after the breakup, not seeing her again, and she keeps popping up in my dreams. And the thing is there's some things about my dreams that are very unusual. A lot of my dreams come across as like movies, right? Where everything is already scripted, things are playing out a certain way, etc., and so forth. But then I have these other dreams that are what I call like real time events. In other words, instead of being scripted like a movie, I can sense when certain dreams are actually like real time, like I'm actually there, in whatever role, and things are happening, and I have to make choices that influence what happens next, as opposed to the other types of dreams where everything is scripted and you just see everything play out, and I don't have any choices to make at all. It just happens. And so eventually, I guess I came to realize that these kinds of dreams are really more the dreams where you're either in the energetic plane or you're in the astral plane, and you're interacting in that plane, with various people, spirits, energies, and so forth. And so what I came to realize is that these encounters I would have with her, they were real time. And so it's literally like I'm in the dream and I'm like, hey, you're here. And in fact, it's even funny because in one of the dreams, I'm peeking back at her, through this sort of window kind of thing. And I'm just like, what are you doing here? And she actually almost has a shocked look on her face, like you see me? Like she didn't say that, right? She didn't say a thing because she's trying to pretend like, oh yeah, don't mind me. I don't know what you're looking at. You're crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm looking right at you, and you're in my dream. And so it was just a very, very weird event, and I had more of them. And I think what eventually she started to learn how to do was to just simply either obscure her face in the dream, or take on the shape of another person, or the look of another person. In other words, that she could be in something that looks different to me, but yet I still feel it because I feel the energetic signature of this person. Even though they look completely different, I'm like, that's not who it appears to be. It's someone else, and I know who that someone else is. And that was very helpful because there were some times that seemed like she was trying to do things to me in the dream, seduce me or whatever the case may be. And I'm just like, no, we shouldn't be doing that. In fact, if you ever watch any of these YouTube videos, that the Africans make on YouTube, one of the first things they tell you is that if someone like that appears in your dream and tries to seduce you, it's not because they want you or trying to experience, sexual pleasure with you. It's actually a form of tethering. And by tethering, I mean it allows them to attach cords to you so that it's almost like, let's say like someone took an extension cord and ran it into your neighbor's apartment and plugged it into their wall, and so that extension cord goes all the way back to your apartment. It's like, motherfucker, I'm paying my light bill. You're not paying my light bill. So why the fuck are you running an extension cord from my power into your apartment? Get your own damn energy, right? And that's exactly what's going on there. Is that when the person does that, they are taking advantage of your energy and they're using it for their own purposes. And it's not like this person loves you. It's not like a person cares about you because they've broken up with you. They're long gone. They could give a shit about you, but they're there to steal your energy, and that's total disrespect because now you're crossing somebody's boundaries. And so when I thought about all of these things, I realized, you know what, I had been dealing with a witch, and so it's okay. These things happen. We are people, and people we don't always know everything. We learn from our experiences. Perhaps at the time I didn't really take witchcraft seriously enough, but now I do because I realized that this is what I was up against. I mean, even the fact if I ever mentioned, say, God and Jesus Christ around her, that would cause an argument in and of itself because she's very anti Jesus Christ. And so you have to kind of wonder about that, because then, you know, you're like, well, okay, then what do you believe in, right? And, yeah, someone could make the argument, well, maybe she believes in an African traditionalist religion. Maybe she's just anti Christian because she sees Christianity as what was used in slavery. But there was more going on than just that. I could feel it, right? I can understand when someone has that political position about that, but that wasn't this. It was almost like you're saying something that they find totally repulsive, Kind of like when you are in a vampire movie and you hold up that silver cross, and then the vampire recalls, like, yes, like, oh my God, it's like at that point you realize you pushed a button because that's not the master they serve, okay? They serve a completely different master, one whose interests run counter to the individual you're now talking about. And so as a result, I realized that she ultimately was playing for the other team, for Samael's team. And of course, if you know anything about the history of how the angels came to be and what they became, then you'll know exactly who Samael is. So if you like this message, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're new here, welcome aboard. It's a safe space. If you're returning, I appreciate your support. Thank you for making this channel great. In the name of the Most High God, I wish you health, wealth, prosperity, and abundance, and blessings and protection if you so need it. And so remember, as we go into the end of October and are approaching Halloween, when the veil between humanity and spirits is most thinnest, please be careful out there, because there are some people who deal in the occult, and you never know when they might have set their sights on you. Take care.